All right, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 15. I can't believe it's 15 of BrewFOs. Today, my guest is Steve Bassett. He is the executive director of the Paradigm Research Group. He's the co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, the first UFO lobbyist, and a UFO activist. I've been following Steve and his talks, him on podcasts, um, the interviews he gives. I've been following him for few years now. So this is a great honor, and thank you for coming on, Steve.
It is my pleasure, sir.
Awesome. So let's just get into it, man. I know you have done you've done over what 1,200, 1,500 probably now
I lost
interviews.
track. It's
Yes.
it's approaching 2000, I think.
Yeah, and I understand that like you've done so many. You're probably you're saying the same things over and over and over. But this, since you've never been on BrewFOs, I want people that don't know you yet, because only like I've been noticing in the UFO community, like you are one of the goats. People will talk about they'll talk about Danny Sheehan, they'll talk about Grant Cameron, but for people that don't know you, let's start at the UFO lobbyist. So 1996. So you are the first UFO lobbyist. Can you go into that? Like, how did that come to be?
It's simple. I decided that the problem with this issue was not science. That it had already been proven many times over, well before 96. So since it's been proven, why are we not having all kinds of open discussions and so forth? And why wasn't the government dealing with it? And I realized it's not the science, it's politics. This was a political national security decision made all the way back in between 1947 and 53. And they made a lot of decisions back then for national security reasons, okay? Which is why we all just don't have our own, nuclear weapon, that we keep in the garage in case we need it, and so many other things. And so consequently, we were not going to be able to openly engage, or is the reality of the EP presence is not going to be formally engaged until the political problem was solved. It was a political issue.
Cheers, by the way. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
Therefore,
there.
it needed to be, it needed to have a political solution, not a science solution. And since my personality was that of of an activist. I admired activists. I did a little of that myself, but I didn't really get serious. In fact, prior to getting into this issue, I was never really serious about anything. So when I made the decision to get serious in 1995, this was the issue that I chose. I needed to get into it because I never belonged to an organization, only been to one lecture on the subject. Well, prior to 95, then I did go to my first conference and toward the end of 95. And so I got very lucky. And the decision that I made was, in order to sort of enter the field, I volunteered to work for John Mack's organization in Cambridge, where he was studying contactees.
Wow.
I had read enough about contactees just in reading to be quite convinced. Hell, I was convinced when Betty and Barney Hill case was written up in Look magazine back in the 60s. So common sense. I had no bias. I had no reason. And I read it. I'm going, well, there's only one explanation for that. So I went to work for John Mack. And while I was up there in Cambridge, I realized the way to go. And the way to go was to go to DC and register the lobbyist. Now, I knew DC very well. My family had lived in a metro area for forever, going all the way back to early 1900. So I knew my way around. So I had a place to stay. I went down and I registered a lobbyist. Why? Did I think I was going to be able to lobby? Did I think that, oh, now I'm a lobbyist, I can go up the hill, start talking to people? No. Nobody had ever done it. Nobody was stupid enough to do that. Why? because one, you're not going to get paid. Two, people are going to make fun of you. Three, no firm is going to hire you to be on their quote team. There's no benefit at all other than being the first. Well, there's something about being the first which is interesting. I have a phrase I like to use is that um, there is a known Chinese curse called "May you live in interesting times." As we all know, we're living under that curse now. Okay, so here's to the Chinese curse. There's a second lesser known curse. May you be ahead of your time. You look back at history at all the people that were ahead of their time, and it's remarkable how awful it went for them. It's not necessarily a good thing. Now, look, it's not always bad. It's not always bad. People that were early into crypto, I mean, way ahead of their time on that. What can I say?
Yeah.
They're living in the Bahamas now. They're driving Mercedes Benz. But that's a rare instance, and most of the time it's brutal. Um, and so that's the downside of being ahead of your time. And I was, and I've been ahead of my time about two or three times in my life. All the previous ones went bad. Not this one, because uh, in this case, being ahead of your time doesn't always mean being the only one, but oftentimes it is. And being the only one to be the only person that's ever registered lobbyist is like being on a football field with nobody else on the field. And so you can just run back and forth and score touchdowns all day long, and score a touchdown, kick off to yourself, run up and down the field, score another one. I mean, there's nothing there on your way. So okay, so I was the first lobbyist. I knew I couldn't lobby. Oh, I got a couple of meetings on the Hill with some 19-year-old intern or whatever, but I knew that they were not going to talk to me. I did not have the angle. There was someone else who was getting talked to on the Hill who was not a registered lobbyist, and that was Stephen Greer. He entered the field about at late 80s, really got into it at late 80s. So he was talking to people in DC, but he was a millionaire doctor, genius, right? So and he had already gotten connections. So I could not do what he was doing. But I was still the first lobbyist. And that meant that one day, and it didn't take long, Washington Post was going to find out about that, which they check all the lobbying registrations. And eventually mine came across their desk, and they're going, this guy is registering on the matter of an extraterrestrial presence and sequestered non-human technology. Well, that's new. Let's interview him. And so they sent out a reporter. That the article is on my website. I think the link's gone, but I naturally saved the page, and you can see it with big article and they put it on the business section back when the newspaper was on paper. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a time when newspapers were on paper, print, and everything. They had sections. They were thick.
Yeah.
It was then. And so I'm on the front page of the business section. Huge photo.
Wow.
Terrible photo. It really was an awful photo. And my career was launched. Suddenly I have some cred. And from that, being the first got me the article. Getting the article allowed me to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded. Now, what I ended up lobbying was not the Congress, but the media.
Mm.
The media had covered the issue, but not enough, and they never investigated it. And so I just made it my job to bother the media, to engage them, to try to get them involved in the story, and that I was pretty good at. I mean, to this day, I think, and I'm not just talking about me, but over 600 articles have been written in mainstream media about Paradigm Research Group and me, little old me, 600. Now, how many articles did I generate? I don't know. but I'm sure I did. So that's how I was doing my lobbying. And then, of course, I started speaking and what have you, in which
Yeah.
case I'm now engaging the general public as an activist. Because frankly, from day one, that's what I was. I was a political activist who happened to be the first lobbyist on this issue. But 90% plus of everything I've done has been activism. The lobbying has just been a side dish. Now, I'm about to start being a real lobbyist pretty soon
Awesome.
because one Paradigm Research Group, which has been a sole proprietorship all these years, 28 years, to give me maximum protection from the government. Meaning, you want to come after me, you got to come after me as a citizen under the First Amendment, right? Can't shut me down because I filled out a form wrong, but I should have probably switched over sooner. But I have just filed. I've already filed to be a nonprofit in Washington D.C. I'll be filing for a 501c3 status finally. And but Paradigm Research Group is going to be what it was always intended to be, a think tank, a
Awesome.
boutique think tank, which just happens to be based a block from the White House. And I'll be doing think tank stuff, and I'll have a board of advisors, but I'll still be doing some activism, and I can still lobby under the law. So I'm about to go pro, I guess.
Well, cheers to
Uh,
that. Cheers to becoming
yeah,
a nonprofit.
here's to
Yeah.
that exactly.
And so you said it's from a block from the White House, isn't Danny Sheehan's Paradigm Institute right by there too, as well?
He's a block from the Capitol building.
Oh, from the Capitol. Okay.
You can
Yeah.
stand out in front of his office, and you can hit. Well, you can send a ball into the camp, the area, that nice area behind on the south wing of the White House. I think with a 5 iron, okay,
Yeah.
uh,
Pretty close there. Okay.
I can put a ball into the White House compound from in front of my office with a 3 iron. There you go.
Awesome. Well, can
I don't
I?
recommend doing this.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah. He's not
Don't do
promoting
it.
that anyone.
Right? Don't do it. I mean,
It's a
it would be
distance. It's a measure of
funny.
distance.
Yeah, it would be funny. It would result in probably a discussion,
Yeah.
and it would get me some media. It would give me some social media stuff,
Yeah.
and it would be cool. And I would be the guy that hit a 3 iron shot at 14th and F and put it in the White House compound. But overall,
But
it
that's
wouldn't
not.
serve the activism.
Yeah.
And I serve. I am of service. So I'm never going to do that.
So speaking of activism, so for people coming up and want to also be UFO activists like you, how do you recommend doing that? Like, what does that entail? What does that mean exactly?
You mean, what nice person's life can I ruin today?
Exactly. Yeah. You're the
Yeah,
Jedi of
yeah,
UFO
yeah, yeah.
activism.
Would,
So
would you like to ruin your life, destroy your marriage? I have the solution for
lose
you.
your friends, uh, become the
Look,
black sheep of the family.
here is the deal. In terms of now, all right, it's game time. It's always been game time, but now it's really game time. So there's lots you can do. Uh, the the real age. Is this true? Let me think about it. It's possible that the true era of disclosure activism is about to really begin. It's been going on for decades. Don't get me wrong. It has been going on for decades, and it's been various people have been doing what they can do. You have this organization forming, but it's always been contained. It's always had certain significant limitations. Progress it would make was slow, but because of recent developments, I think the real deal is about to happen. Now, what am I talking about? Without getting overly worked up, like I did in my last interview, where I pretty much went ballistic. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And I'll be putting that link out very soon.
Awesome.
Essentially, after 7 decades, we entered the final phase of the truth embargo. In other words, the truth embargo was pretty much coming to an end, uh, and a lot contributed to that. And I could spend hours telling you about that, but let's stick to the point here. And so the the awareness of the issue escalated even more. The awareness of the concept of disclosure escalated and what it meant, confirmation of the extraterrestrial presence by heads of state. That's the term I came up with. Capital D disclosure now, the concept of that confirmation event. It's what I came up with as part of my activist contribution way back around 2000. Might have been 99, I think it was 2000. The awareness of that is greater than it's ever been. More effort to, more things have happened in the last 7 years in terms of moving to what I can getting disclosure, what I call the capital D disclosure process, than in the previous 70. And we were headed for the finish line. I mean, we were, you know, practically there. And as is often the case, the powers that be, and this happens in all fields, all areas of endeavor, particularly activism, the powers that be, seeing that maybe they were going to lose this one, decided to take some draconian action to save their ass. Okay. Now, oftentimes, what this, when you're talking about serious matters such as essentially autocratic regimes taking advantage of people, doing awful things, pushing the citizens to the limit, and then suddenly the citizens get enough and they rise up and they suddenly start really going after, and then the response is kind of a last ditch effort, and they started machine gunning everybody down and whatever, rounding people up, putting them in gulags, mass graves, whatever. I mean, that kind of thing happens. Absolutely. This isn't that bad, thank goodness, but it's along those lines. So, what do I mean? The Department of Defense, and I'll go into details, but just to give you the outline, the Department of Defense came to understand recently that they were about to lose the truth embargo. It was going to end. And that was going to create a number of problems for them, mostly public relations. They were going to have to deal with what I came to call the post-disclosure world, right? And it was not going to be fun. And they were going to have to answer a lot of tough questions. They were going to be embarrassed. And so there was that. And then you had X number of people inside the Department of Defense or the military intelligence complex in general, certainly the Department of Defense, who simply will never give up on the idea that they are protecting us from a nuclear threat. They're protecting us from our foreign enemies who want to destroy us, take us over, turn us into something we're not, and also threaten us with nuclear weapons. And that is their one reason to exist. I get it. And they believe, they truly believe. It's not about public relations. It's not about embarrassment. It's not about having to deal with people and things they would prefer not to. It's about the fact that they believe that ending the truth embargo actually increases the risk that we'll have a nuclear war and destroy our country. And there are certain numbers that number has been shrinking over the years, I assure you. How many there are, I don't know. It's not a lot. There's also another cadre of individuals who are of a even smaller number, but they're measurable, who work inside the military intelligence complex, particularly the DoD. That are very deeply religious, and they believe that we're in end times. And their reluctance to end the truth embargo has something to do with their apocalyptic religious beliefs. Whatever. You take all these together, and they realized that the truth embargo was about to collapse. And in desperation, they took draconian actions to stop it last minute. And it's exactly like a Hail Mary pass. In other words, the game is there's only 5 seconds, 10 seconds left in the game. It's fourth and long, and the only chance of winning the game is the quarterback's got to roll out to the right, give time for the guys to get to the end zone, throw the thing in the end zone, and it's a jump ball. And if their guy catches it, the truth embargo gets to go on for another 10, 15 years. It literally is a Hail Mary pass. The percentage I think of that as being successful in the NFL is about 10%. I love the play, believe me. Who doesn't love a Hail Mary pass? Love watching it. I'm always about 10%. The chances of this Hail Mary pass working is more in the lines of a tenth of 1%. Okay, about 1 in 1,000. I'm serious. Okay, let me tell you why. With a standard Hail Mary pass, what happens is that if the quarterback is nimble enough, gets out of the pocket, by the time he throws the ball, there's 5, 6 of his team down there, right? Okay. Because it's a pass play, the linemen, they can't be downfield. Okay. And so they can't go down. But everybody else goes, about 6 of their guys and about 6 or 7 of the other team's guys in the end zone going to do a jump ball. Okay. This Hail Mary pass is a little different. All right. Basically, when the Pentagon threw this pass, there was only really one person that needed to catch it, that could catch it in the end zone that would save their butt. But there were several million people opposed to that pass in the end zone along with that one person. And so you see why it's not going to work, but what the hell, give them credit for trying. Okay, so that's the analogy. Now, what the hell am I talking about? All right, here's what I'm talking about. Essentially, everything has happened since 2017. It's been pushing the capital D disclosure process forward. More has happened in the last 7 years than the previous 70. We're seeing things that have unprecedented. The amount of coverage by the media, mainstream media, credible press, is the greatest ever. I've logged in on my print media archive, which you can find on paradigmresearchgroup.org under resources. Or you can just, I think, Google print media archive. I think it comes up.
I'll have all the links to that too in the episode notes. So everyone, you'll find all of Steve's stuff in the episode notes.
I have logged in direct links to over 7,000 articles since 2017.
Wow.
7,000 mainstream articles, of which, particularly in the last 4 years, 1 in 100 is a skeptical piece. Actually, maybe less than that. It could be more like 1 in every 300. That is how things have changed. Okay, so all this is happening. Yeah. We're making progress. Witnesses are coming forward. Lots of media coverage. And of course, the original people that came forward with the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences have been a major focus of activity. The New York Times article was generated by a couple of those people that made that article possible. It was written, of course, by Kane and Blumenthal and Helene Cooper, but overall, I mean, the people that came forward in October of 17. And so that article triggered a huge amount of press. And then in the next 3 years, you have lots of activity and podcasts and emails and Twitter and whatever. But behind the scenes, witnesses were being escorted up to the Hill to meet with members of Congress in private. How many, we don't know. How many meetings took place, we don't know. It was more than scores. It was probably hundreds, but whatever. Members of Congress, the relevant members of Congress, were giving the opportunity to speak privately with witnesses, pilots, whatever. And this was going on behind the scenes. We knew it was happening, but we weren't given the, the, the content of these meetings. They were private meetings. Okay. And so this went on for 3 years, to one degree or another, and a lot of other stuff. So the disclosure process is moving forward very nicely, and I'm very happy about it. So, not surprisingly, what happened in 2020 was not surprising. I just repeated myself, didn't I? What? What? Yeah, and surprisingly enough, I said surprisingly twice. Look, so the inevitable happened. The first piece of legislation
Yeah.
regarding this issue was put forth, in this case, into the Senate, a Senate bill, Senate version of a bill. In this case, I'm not surprised at this either. It was not a lot, and it was slipped into a $2 trillion COVID relief bill. So it's like nobody was going to hold up the COVID relief bill over
Yeah.
that little bit of legislation, right? Because there was $2 trillion to distribute, and who wanted to be the person that said, "No, you can't have the 2 trillion," because so anyway, Marco Rubio made history by slipping some legislation into that bill that was passed and signed December 23 by President Trump, the first president to sign legislation regarding this issue in history.
Wow.
Kudos to President Trump. And it was not much. It addressed the fact that there was this activity going on at the Office of Naval Intelligence, and this issue needed to be addressed more. And the most important thing it did was it called for a report from the Department of Defense by June 25 to the American people of 2021, as well as a classified report to certain committees.
Mm-hmm.
I think at least the Intel committee, could have been the Intel and one or two others, but a classified report. And it was made public. And so the press knew there was a public report coming on June 25 or 20. You tell the press something like that, and they're all over it, right? Because they got a date, they know it's coming. And so you got a lot more coverage. Eventually, I think prior to June 25, the classified report was delivered to some members of Congress, key members, key committees, appropriate committees. And then the public report came out. It wasn't much, but it was the first time that we had such a response to a piece of legislation. That was 2021. Later that year, more legislation was put together that was signed in December of 2021. And that was signed by President Biden. And that was submitted not by the now ranking member of the Intel Committee, Rubio, but by one of the Intel Committee chair members, Kirsten Gillibrand. I believe that she was chosen for the second piece of legislation, as opposed to Mark Warner, who was the new chair, because while Rubio was the chair and submitted that bit of legislation, he was a presidential candidate, which gave it even more heft in a way. Warner was not running for president, probably never would run for president, but Gillibrand had. And so I think they passed the gauntlet to her and let her sponsor that piece of legislation to balance the scales. And anyway, that legislation took things further, creating the UAP task force and providing some things to do, reports to be done, some funding, whatever. Okay, now, that was signed December 2021, and we move into 2022, right? By the way, all this is happening with the pandemic is raging. No problem, didn't slow it down. 22, a third tranche of legislation was put together and posted on the Air Force web, the Intel Committee, the Senate legislative website, and it took things even further. It essentially established Arrow, right? In other words, they converted the UAP task force to they modified its mission statement and expanded on it, And as a result, they came up with the ultimate name for what they needed to have an entity be called, because everybody knew that this phenomena was not just in the air, it was also in space, and it was also underwater and even underground. And there was a number of related phenomena associated with it. And so UFO certainly didn't cover it, and it was
Mhm.
stigmatized by the truth embargo, which is why we brought in UAP. I say the activist movement pushed UAP,
Mhm.
which is unidentified aerial phenomena, which is exactly the same as UFO, but the UAP didn't cover it. And so along the way, it started being called unidentified anomalous phenomena. I don't know if that was in legislation, but that was being used, possibly in legislation, because that way it covered more territory, right? It more represented the range of phenomena that the ETs were generating. Great, but still not the proper name for the entity. And they finally settled in that third tranche of legislation, sponsored by Warner this time, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Perfect.
Mhm.
Covers everything, right? It covers all anomalies, whatever form associated with the phenomena, in whatever domain they're occurring. Like if you start seeing things flying around the moon that, that's not our stuff. Well, the domain is the moon, and it's definitely anomalous. So it comes under arrow, and I could just list them all. The point is, it's perfect, and it had a great acronym, which we needed.
Mhm.
One of those acronyms they created along the way, I forget what it was called. It was terrible. Oh my
Yeah.
god! So arrow was perfect. I was happy. Everybody was happy. So created arrow. It added a lot. It fleshed things out, brought in issues about witness protection, also how witness would be treated, and so forth. It was a substantial piece of legislation. It was signed December of 2022 by President Biden, and we're moving forward. It's good. I'm liking it. And then 2023 comes, and things got real.
Yeah.
All right, got real, real.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing like what happened in 2023 is unlike anything that happened before. And in the context of this process that was already 3 years underway, it made it even more powerful. And so, in rapid succession, David Grush worked for the task force, had information of importance, great importance, from inside people, took it to the Intel committee, and instead of being welcomed with open arms, they listened to it, they didn't deny it. But then all of a sudden, he's getting harassed. He gets very unhappy about that, takes that to the the intelligence community's inspector general. They acknowledge the legitimacy of what he's saying, the importance of it. They acknowledge he has a case. They give him what relief he can. Goes back to his job at UAP task force. Then he starts getting death threats because he's kind of stepped out in front. Am I a little too far? Now he's getting really upset. Okay. And so, after considerable thought, he makes a decision to become. There have been other whistleblowers, none as prominent as he, none in a setting as important as he. He comes forward as a whistleblower on June the 5th of last year and takes the whole issue up another couple of notches. He gives a substantial accounting to Ross Coulthard on News Nation. He gives a substantial accounting to Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal, who publish it in the debrief. It all comes out on June the 5th. Boom. 2023. Boom.
Mhm.
Now things are getting very real. Okay. Are we further along than we were in 1969? In the early days of 69, with Project Blue Book churning away, analyzing those reports and coming up with false explanations? Oh, yeah. Are we further along than the various studies that have been done by NICAP and the books have been written? Oh, yes. Right? Way further than that. Still, 1969 was a pretty significant. By then, a lot had happened, and the interest in the subject was growing, but the truth embargo was solid. Trust me. Okay. So that happens on June the 5th. Uh, what happens next is the first response to it, which didn't take long. It started in July. Actually, well, let's see. Let me see if I have this right. I'm sorry. Grush's statement was not the first real interesting development of that year, 2023. The first probably interesting, truly interesting political development is a Republican conservative congressman from Tennessee, Tim Burchett.
Mm.
Burchett decided to go public with the fact that he was pretty sure there was an ET presence. I think he knew it because he'd been told, because there are people, there are briefings and classified briefings taking, and witnesses are being interviewed on the Hill for years. And the Hill, in case anybody doesn't know, it is a giant cafeteria where you got cafeterias in every one of the Senate office buildings, House office buildings, and a Capitol building, and they all get together for lunch and whatever, and they're talking and so let me tell you, people learn things. You don't have to get a briefing from some DOD specialist in a skiff, right, to learn things. You just over lunch, and one of your good friends on another committee just says, I can't tell you too much, but Congressman, there's ETs here, right? So whatever. And he's not the only one that has figured it out that way. And so he'd had enough, and he decided to go public. And Tim Burchett was going on television shows and saying flat out, "There's an extraterrestrial presence here."
Yeah.
No member of Congress had ever done that. Oh, they had engaged the issue a few, didn't go well, and so he kind of lit a fuse there, and he's still doing it, right? So Tim Burchett is right out in front of this issue before Grush comes forward on June the 5th. That took it up another notch,
Hmm.
right? And so what's going to happen now? Right? Of course, now the internet's on fire, the Twitter's on fire, I'm on fire. We're excited.
Well, that's the
Right?
difference, right, Steve? Is that in the '60s there wasn't the internet, so like you wouldn't be able to do all the interviews that you're doing now. Everything, the way we share information, all that. It's like not you cannot stop this. Like I mean, unless there was a solar flare like burnt out all of our technology or something, you know.
Yeah, a
But
CME mass extinction event. Yeah, that would have done
yeah,
it.
yeah, that would do it. But
So yes, not 1969, which is
yeah,
going to be my mantra. So Rush comes forward,
yeah,
and of course now we're waiting for what the hell is going to happen next.
hmm,
I mean, something is going to have to happen.
yeah,
I mean, a lot had already taken place between October of 2017 and June of 2023. A lot, including thousands of articles in the media. And so it wasn't like, okay, well, this guy says we got non-human tech and non-human bodies, and yeah, he worked for a UAP task force, uh, and so is that we're just going to ignore that and say, okay, move on? No, something's going to happen, and the question is, how big was it going to be? It was bigger than I could have ever imagined. It took 39 days. What happened was on July 14th, a new player turned up who is an ex officio member of the Senate Intel Committee, which has been the principal driver of all of this for years. It's because it's the appropriate committee. Chuck Schumer stepped in front of a camera and said, I have worked with Mike Rounds of the Senate Armed Services
hmm,
Committee, and we have decided to add 65 pages of language to the next UAP bill, right? To be signed, hopefully, by the president this December. That was pretty significant because he's the Senate Majority Leader. He's also very political, but it has to be because he's Senate Majority. He's also a member of the Gang of Eight. He's a big shot. And so we didn't expect that, didn't
hmm,
see it coming. It was out of nowhere, right? And so he comes forward and says, and what is this bill that he's discussing and telling us about that the language will go up shortly on the Senate legislative site as their language for the pending UAP bill has to be reconciled with the House. Oh, just it's going to be the UAP Disclosure Act.
hmm,
Disclosure Act. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that, sir. Um, It's going to basically include the entire basis by which everything will eventually go public and end up in the archive. Everything, documents,
Mhm.
programs, files, secret docs, UAP tech, non-human tech,
Mhm.
bodies, whatever, the whole enchilada. Oh, and by the way, we're going to set up a UAP review board to,
Mhm.
again, help in this process to do it responsibly. And we're going to give subpoena powers to that review board appointed by the president. Huh? And then certain members of the congressional committees are going to have extra oversight over this process, the UAP control disclosure plan. And they're going to have subpoena powers, and everybody involved is going to have the highest level of classification so that they're able and not barred from anything in the government, period. There's no class. In other words, they can get anywhere because they have the highest level of classification and special access. And oh yeah, by the way, that non-human tech and non-human bodies, that's a matter of serious national concern for the entire country, and therefore we are going to include eminent domain in this proposed legislation, meaning that the government, if it wishes to, can exercise eminent domain and acquire from any source, public source, individual or corporation, any of that non-human tech or bodies they may have, and what they've learned and developed or whatever. We might not. We might still come back and work with you, and you can still make a lot of money, but it's ours. Eminent domain. Drop that baby on July the 14th, the basic description. I was floored. I was stunned. Couldn't believe it. I'm going, hey, we're practically there. We're on the 1 yard line. Chuck Schumer is the best running back in the league. He's going to take the ball in, score a touchdown. But then 12 days later, on July 26th, things got even hotter. At that point, Tim Burchett, remember him? Had gotten a number of members of his subcommittee also excited about this, and they said, we deserve to have a hearing. Why should we wait for the Senate Intel Committee? And they knew they could get one because they knew Grush wanted a hearing. He didn't want to wait. He
Yeah.
wanted a hearing right away because he's still getting death threats. And so they convinced Grush to testify before them. And once they had Grush, they easily got Graves in favor, not because they're easy to get, but because it's appropriate. They became his wingmen, and it wasn't just Grush. Perfect move on the part of Burchett. Get 3 at least people in front of you.
Well, in the East Coast and the West Coast, and then Grush, because we got
Sure.
Graves was East Coast.
And that hearing was held on July the 12th. It'll go down in history without question. In the subcommittee hearing room, I was able to get into that room and watch it all firsthand. And so Grush then repeated everything he told Coulthard,
Mhm.
Kane, and Blumenthal under oath with the cameras on and a lot of people watching it live. And of course, now it's on YouTube, and God knows I need to check, but y'all should check. Go look for the House subcommittee hearing with David Grush on YouTube and check how many views it's getting. It's probably up on several
It was
places.
July 26th, right?
It's
July
July
26th.
26th
Yeah.
hearing last year. David
Yeah.
Grush, the subcommittee of the House Oversight Committee, just use those search terms. It's on YouTube. People are still watching it. God knows how many people eventually see that hearing. And that was on the 26th.
Mhm.
And now things are getting really interesting. Okay.
Yep.
And so what happens? This is where the call to activism comes from. This is when the call went out, ultimately went out to the world. Okay, folks, we've had activists in this field. They're doing what they can do. They've made some progress. Now it's time for everybody to step up. Everybody who can step up, step up. Not 1,000, not 1,000,000. About 500,000,000 would be nice. We'll go with that. We'll settle for that. Why? Why the call to action? Simple. Chuck Schumer was playing chess with the military intelligence complex,
Mhm.
who were still playing checkers in spite of the fact they've got all these supercomputers and AI and stuff. But they're very arrogant, right? In a lot of ways. They've been gotten way too comfortable with the massive secrecy they've created around themselves that insulates themselves from everything. So he made a chess move. Made a chess move. He put that language up on the site ultimately on July the 27th. That made it real. And of course, you had Grush testimony on the 26th. And so what happened is that those within the military intelligence community and those who operate in the who own and run the corporations, the defense contractor corporations that have been doing the research on all this tech all these years, had no choice but to come out of cover and go after the bill. All right. They'd never had to do that before. They've always been able to do their machinations totally behind the scenes. Nobody knows what's going on, whatever. They had it made. You couldn't even file an FOIA. All the defense contractors were exempt from that. Not necessarily so they could hide the ET stuff. There were reasons that they are um, exempt from FOIA. And the partnership between defense contractors and the United States government involves a hell of a lot more than in non-human technology. So I don't want to make that overly state that point. The point is that they decided we've got to take action. We have to come out of cover.
Mhm.
We have to take the risk. In other words, we're going to have to throw a Hail Mary. Okay. And so here's what they did. First, they sent their representatives, lobbyists, and whoever else up on the Hill to get the bill gutted.
Mhm.
They weren't stupid enough to try to remove the entire bill. I think they understood that that would generate a tsunami backlash before they could get their surfboards. So consequently, it was like just neuter the bill, gut it, make
Mhm.
it powerless. And we know how they did it. They approached very powerful members of the Senate and House, all of whom had one thing in common. They got lots, well, had at least one thing in common. They all got lots of very substantial campaign funding from the defense contractors, millions of dollars. Okay. You know, if you want to serve the American people, you got to raise millions and millions of dollars to do it, right? And you get that paid the 200,000 a year. You got the free parking and whatever. That's the way it works in our society until we fix that. So we're not fixing things these days much.
Mm.
And so they sent them up there and they said, gut the bill. I don't know how they phrased it. Some of them might have phrased it national security. If this bill goes through, we're going to get disclosure, and that's going to bring cats and dogs together. It's going to cause tsunamis. It's going to end religion as we know it. It's going to end the world. Can't do it. Whatever. Mostly, I think they said, if you don't gut the bill, you're not getting any more money from us. And so these powerful people, when they weren't in a conference, because the conference meetings to reconcile the language, they don't go on 24 hours a day. I mean, they got to go eat, right? So they're talking to them in the hallways, and they're basically saying, "You got to gut this bill, okay? If you don't gut this bill, we're very powerful, and we're going to make your life miserable." So they did, and when the final bill was done, it was reduced from 65 pages to I think 18 or something, whatever. They took all the powers out, the subpoena power, the UAP review board, all the classification status that they would have had. They took all that out. And of course, they took subpoena power out. You know, we can't have the government coming and taking away our golden eggs here, you know, because we've been patiently working on this tech and studying this tech science for decades and decades. We were paid very well to do it, but you know, we got patents ready to file. I mean, we're going to patent the hell out of this, and after disclosure, we're going to make trillions of dollars. Okay, we're going to control the ET tech, and we don't want to give that up. So the eminent domain has to go, and so and we knew this eventually. It took a while before we caught on, and we're putting stuff out on the internet, and we're posting, and people are getting upset, but we didn't have a chance. So the bill gets done. It's very short. All it has in it is the concept. It's like It's like a bill that a bill passed. The United States government has passed a bill saying we need to have peace on Earth, but does not provide any way to achieve peace on Earth. Right? Okay, it's like that. So it's the essence of the Senate bill was there. We need to have the disclosure process that brings everything out, gets it reviewed, properly reviewed, then given to the public, ultimately put in the archives with no power whatsoever to do it. Okay. They weren't willing to take the whole thing out because that would have been a bridge too far. So they didn't. So they got that done. Okay. Well, it didn't go as well as they had thought
No.
because, again, this is not 1969. And so the internet got really upset about that. And they're getting trashed and trolled across the internet, right? The media is writing articles. Okay. There's a total focus on it. Everybody knows what they've done. Okay. And they're going, oh man, this is starting to become a problem here. And then they discovered this chess game that I mentioned. The one where Chuck Schumer's playing chess and they're playing checkers. They thought that they were playing chess and they thought they'd made a beautiful move that it pretty much stalemated the whole game. Right. And then they realized, no, we've been checkmated in two, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it. At least we don't think so. Right. I mean, in other words, the only way we can avoid being checkmated is to do what you often see is to just take the board, flip it, right? Pieces are flying everywhere. Okay. Game's over. No game. That was about the only chase they had. And that's what they did. Because Schumer, not long after they had completed the bill that would ultimately be signed by the president, which is in late October, early November, somewhere in that period. I don't know the exact date. It's also an important date. Chuck Schumer went into the Senate chambers along with Mike Rounds
Oh yeah.
to do something that is often done, to put something in the congressional record. There may not have been anybody else in the chamber but the cleaning people. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's in the chamber, goes in the record. So he's in front of the camera.
Mhm.
Rounds also is in front of the camera, and he's looking at the camera, and he says, I should get the film up on my site. I should get the wording down better, but I'm paraphrasing. He basically says, "We're very disappointed that all of the powers were taken out of the bill, right, and didn't leave it too much in." And we're a little angry with the Republicans who seem to have led this charge, right? Led this effort to gut the bill. He kept his cool, but he said, "We're not going to give up." And Mike Rounds was saying the same thing. We're not going to get up. We'll give up. We're going to go and work on this, and we're going to get this done.
And everyone Rounds, Mike Rounds he's a senator from South Dakota, so this is
And he's a
bipartisan here.
Republican. He's
Yeah.
a Republican, and he's on the Armed Services Committee, which
Yep.
means the Armed Service Committee staff is being involved.
Yep.
And so basically, everybody over at the Pentagon dining room who were, enjoying some quality, I don't know. I like to say lobster bisque, a little champagne,
Spit out
nice
their
Caesar salad. And over at the DOD, the DOD dining halls, the executive dining halls where the big guys, they're sitting there and they're watching because they always have TVs in these things.
Yeah.
Even when you're dining, you got to know what's going on. So they're watching Schumer say this, and it suddenly hits them. Uh-oh. It's checkmate in two. We're screwed. I'm sure they were very upset. Their indigestion was negatively affected. Many tums were
Yeah.
consumed that day.
Yeah.
And why? Because here is what probably came together in their brains at that time. One, Chuck wasn't going to give up. He was serious. When he demanded eminent domain, or when he said it was going to be eminent domain in the bill, he confirmed Grush was right. Grush said there's ET tech. He said we want eminent domain over the ET tech. if there's no ET tech, you don't need the eminent domain. He just confirmed there's ET tech. He just backed up Grush. When the contractors had to fight back against that and get rid of that eminent domain, they made it clear that was one of the key things. The only reason they would be upset about eminent domain over ET tech is if they had ET tech. So therefore, they just confirmed they had ET tech. Who hadn't confirmed there was ET tech? So that was now completely out, right? But they had to do what they had to do. That was the risk they took, right? They couldn't let it pass, and that they knew if they came out of cover, they were going to be acknowledging and be more vulnerable. Okay. And now Schumer says he's going to keep at it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing they forgot, it's like a chess player who this move comes at him and they go, I got to deal with this. And so they make a counter move, but they didn't check all the players on the board. They didn't check all the pieces on the board. They forgot about this piece over here. And once they make the counter move, then they notice that piece and realize it's mate in two. And who was the piece on the board that they forgot about? It wasn't Schumer. It wasn't Rounds. It was Chuck. I mean, not Chuck, sure. Mark Warner. So many senators. Mark Warner.
Yeah.
I forgot about Mark Warner, who had been silent, pretty much staying out of this. I mean, he sponsored the third tranche of legislation. Schumer sponsored the fourth. Schumer's game. He's staying back. The Senate Intel Committee has pretty much been staying back as things move forward. Doesn't mean they're not taking briefings. Doesn't mean the staff isn't talking to people. They are preparing for the inevitable hearings. But Mark Warner's just sitting back there. And all the king's men and all the king's horses over the DOD and at Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and SAIC, all these companies that have, done contract work involving ET technology, realized in that instant we forgot about Warner. Now, why is that important? Because they could stop the bill, they could gut the bill, but they can't stop Warner from holding a hearing. The way our government works is that the person that calls a hearing is the chairman of the committee. Right? And the DOD can't stop that. The defense contractors can't stop that. The president can't stop that. The Pope can't stop that. So if Warner wants a hearing, you get a hearing. And they know I assure you, the defense contractors and the DOD know the witnesses that have been coming forward. They know all of them. Hell, Arrow's interviewed some of them.
Yes, some.
They know how many have come forward. They know who they are. They know they're mostly military. They all say credible. They had great careers. They're going to speak under oath. And a week of testimony from these witnesses blows the truth embargo out of the water. And they can't stop Warner from having the hearing. And then if they have that hearing, after about a week of that testimony, the president
Come out, yeah.
is going to be able to comfortably come forward and say, look, I can't argue. I mean, I have to I feel the same way that the American people feel, and quite a few people in my cabinet feel, that this is conclusive testimony. Whatever doubts I may have had, there is a non-human technology here, non-humans here. At least we have non-human tech from previous crashes. At least we have non-human bodies from previous crashes. But pretty sure we actually have non-human visitors now. That's disclosure. Boom, bada bing, it's done. He quickly turns around, walks down Cross Hall. His aides say, look, folks, we're going to start taking more questions on Monday. In the meantime, go home, party, get drunk, whatever you need to do to prepare for the post-disclosure world.
Can I ask you something about that? So just real quick, you saying that, so non-human. I'm with you. This is such a great recap, Steve. This is awesome. But I just have a serious question, because I've been asking and talking about this on this conversation series here. But it's so how, like Grush said non-human intelligence, right? How do you know it's ET? Like, what has convinced you that it's alien? because the non-human thing, like, what if it's in the ocean, or that whole thing, like,
Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's step back for a second.
yeah, yeah,
This is not as complicated as it may seem.
okay,
Okay. Here's the deal.
yeah, yeah,
Non-human tech
yeah,
means entities from somewhere else. Okay. In other words, this is technology that was uh, created by people, by entities who are not humans
yeah,
and from somewhere else. Okay. And I don't care if they're from another planet. I don't care if they're from another dimension. I don't care if they're from the future,
what about the ocean?
right?
What if they're from the ocean, or
Or the
underground, or
ocean.
something?
That's well, meaning I don't care if they're from the earth in the sense that they've always been living here
Yeah,
and we just didn't know it, right?
yeah,
Because they're
yeah,
hiding out. Okay. I don't care.
okay,
As far as I'm concerned, that's extraterrestrial. Now, why is that? Okay. Here's the reason. The chances of them developing anti-gravitic tech and everything else they have while living amongst us or on our planet all these years is so tiny. I just don't want to give it any what do you cachet. Look, okay, I'm sorry.
yeah,
What can I say? There is the tiniest chance that they've been living here all along. And so somebody wants to bring that up in order to muddy the term non-human. They can do it, but I don't care. All right. I simply don't care because the chances are so small. It's an utter waste of time. It's nothing but confusion and distraction. The government loves that. Okay. Loves that. They would love us. The government would love us to debate. Well, are they from another planet or are they from the inner earth? Let's talk about that. Hell, let's talk about that for another 40 years. They would love it. I'm not going to talk about it. And so while there is a slight chance, a tiny chance, that they've always been here, which means that non human tech bodies or tech does not quite apply,
yeah,
I don't give a damn. Extraterrestrial. Now, what does that mean? Okay. They're from another star system, extraterrestrial. They're from another dimension, extraterrestrial. If they're from the future, extraterrestrial, meaning they're not from right now, right? They're not from now. They're not from the planet now. That makes them extraterrestrial. Now, let me let me go further here. Okay.
yeah,
I'm an activist. My job is to get something done, to get disclosure.
hmm,
I try to be reasonable. I try to be generous, right? My job is not to make enemies, right? But to make the point as clear as I possibly can, United States government and the national security state has thrived on confusing us, misdirecting us, having us go around in circles, crash into furniture in the dark, anything to keep us from focusing on their embargo. And they are happy for us to do it until the end of time. And we have done that. We have explored this and that and gone here. And the truth embargo has opened up a truth in vacuum that has been filled with every matter of conspiracy theory and hoax and fake and everything else. The government thrives on it. Have fun, lie to yourselves, do whatever you want, make jokes. We don't care as long as you don't challenge us. The day we stop doing that, it's ball game. All right. And so let me be as clear as I can be. We need to get an end to the truth embargo, not spend the next 50 years trying to determine, oh, are they from another star or another dimension or the future? No, we need to end the embargo. There is this presence here. I have no time to waste on future, ETs from the future. I have no time to waste on ETs from another dimension because the chances of those being true are almost not measurable. Now, if you know nothing about science at all, then you might be going, well, I mean, I've seen time travel in movies. It's very big then, and I've seen this dimensional stuff. It's very cool. That's in the sci-fi movies. So why can't it be real?
but when Arrow just recently said there's no evidence of aliens, or they did that whole, and then the media took it on. The last podcast I did with Dan Warren from Fifth Pillar of Emphasis, I was telling
Mhm.
him my dad called me and was like, "Hey, what's this I see on the news of there's no evidence of aliens?" And that started really making, because I've always thought extraterrestrial is a possibility. I just don't know. But when I started seeing that from Arrow, I was like, oh, maybe it's just the phrasing. That's how they get around it. Because if it is from our ocean, then they go, oh, it's there's no aliens.
Trust
It's
me.
there's no
Trust me.
aliens.
They, they, as stupid as they can be, the idea that they put this report together, right? And this report demonstrated, oh my God, we got dimensionals and we got time travelers, or they got the inner Earth people, but that's not really extraterrestrial, and so we're just going to say non-human, and would not really be. No, 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 no. It's zero. That no, no way, no way. They're trying to shut the whole thing down. Okay, so let me restate it. All right. Now look, I only have a BS in physics from decades ago. Most of the stuff I learned then, they're teaching in the eighth grade. But I do follow science. I have a scientific mind. I'm on some various threads. I get it. And I got to tell you, there's some very smart people out there that are having a good time on the internet. Seriously, they're serious people. They're putting up some equations and things like that. And in the world of quantum physics, almost anything is possible anyway. I mean, once you go quantum, man, anything is possible. It's like
Yeah.
a ticket to ride. I get it. And they're making the case while these are us from the future. Okay, fine. They're making a case that they're interdimensional. Okay. And they're poo pooing oftentimes, well, but they're not from another star. And I'm going, well, why are you eliminating the other star thing? Because of relativity. The relativity theory, which was initially put forward in the early 1900s, that was around the same time the first plane flew. Okay. You can't get there from here. I mean, you can, but it's going to take 20, 30, 40,000 years. Who has that kind of
Yeah.
time? Right? The energy needs are unbelievable. They just can't get here. So it can't be that. So it's got to be this. Well, look, I'm not I'm not going to say that really smart people that have been studying time travel and quantum mechanics and dimensions are idiots. They're not. But I'm saying that, and while they may be having fun, and it may be that doing that thinking and theorizing may lead to some understanding that could be useful from the standpoint of ending this truth embargo, it's a pain in the ass. All right? Why? Because any reasonable examination of the physics that we know now, the idea of time travel back to the past is so unlikely. It's like going to Vegas and putting everything you have down on the odds of winning 5,000 blackjack hands in a row. It's possible, but of course you're going to lose.
What
All
about
right.
the ocean? What do we feel about the ocean? Same
No,
thing,
no,
just a
no, no,
small.
no, no. Hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on.
Yeah, yeah.
The oceans is the same as the inner Earth, right? The only reason the oceans is because Aquaman came out. So Aquaman comes out, and people now start seeing these incredible cities in the oceans. And so maybe they have incredible cities in the oceans. Please, folks, the government loves it when we do this. Oh, there's a new sci-fi movie. Oh, that could be real. That could be the ETs. And the government's going, oh man, run with that baby. We hope there's 5 sequels to that movie. Run with that. Give us another 10, 15 years. We're not ready to disclose yet. No. So the chances of them being interdimensional, based on the physics we have and even the advanced physics, is so tiny, it's not measurable. Multi-universes and multi-dimensions, wonderful sci-fi. And the government would love us to stay in the sci-fi zone until the end of time, just as long as we don't bother them. They've got wars to fight. They've got secrecy to maintain. They got a good gig going there. Don't mess with us. We're very happy. The chances are not measurable. In terms of star to star, Well, let's see. One, the only thing that prevents star to star is a slightly different understanding of space time that is more advanced than the one that Einstein came up with about 110 years ago.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Meaning it's not the be all end all of the understanding of space and time. There's that. And then there's the fact that ETs who have abducted or taken or contacted several million humans and generated several 100,000 reports, legitimate reports of people sending them into researchers and so forth. This is what happened to me. No money, no fame, nothing. Just, I want to tell my story because I can't publicly because my relatives will laugh at me. Repeatedly in these reports, you have instances, not every time by any means, but often enough to note the ETs tell the contactees we're from another star. And then when you go into the ancient evidence, ancient aliens, what can I say?
Hmm.
Well,
Or Jacques
my
Vallée, we got Wonders of the Sky,
yeah,
Jacques Vallée.
there you go. And then
Yeah.
you've got Kevin Burns' masterpiece, and of course Jojo Suwokas gave us the masterpiece series, Ancient Aliens, which has got a lot of stuff in there that won't hold up, and a lot of stuff that will. But it's a damn good show. It's really entertaining, and it's probably brought the ET issue, the real aspect of ETs, to more people's heads than any other form of content ever. Okay, and when you look at it, you see intimations of contact in the past by ETs. It's all over the place. Now, some of it may be a misinterpretation. All of it, I don't think so. And when you go back and look at that, you know what you find out? The ETs, in many instances, are telling our ancient ancestors, we're from the stars, not from the future, not from another dimension, and not from the inner earth. Okay? We're from the stars. So, I'm going with from the stars,
Are
which
you
makes them
religious
true
at all?
extraterrestrial. What?
Are you religious at all?
No, no, not at all.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about though too, is because I came from a religious background, then I left, but there's also a lot of text and religious books where they're like we're angels or we're from heaven or it's a demon and so that's kind of like how I'm looking at this now is just like, so do we believe whatever this thing is that's telling us something, like, so how do we know it's not an angel if it's been telling us it's an angel? How do we know it's not, if it was in the ocean and then it's like I'm an alien from Zeta Reticuli and it just wants us to think that, but it's really from our ocean. Like how do I'm just wondering, like, how would you convince somebody that it is an ET?
I don't. Hang on, hang on. I got a cramp here. Hang on.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's fine.
I'm in my fifth interview hour. I'm not in the
If you want to
business.
take a break, we can too. That's
No,
fine.
no, I'm not in the
Okay.
business of convincing people.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I really don't. I ultimately don't care if any particular person gets this or not. Okay, they can come up with whatever excuse they want. It doesn't matter. But the what matters is the overwhelming evidentiary process is underway. We're heading for disclosure, and it's going to happen. And the people that can't handle it will have a problem, but they will be not as many as the government says, and it won't be nearly as bad as people think. The point is that it's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? And so the job of the activist is to cut through the crap and get to the point and get it done. And so ETs, guess what? Their anti-gravitic craft can fly through the sky, and they can also go into water. Does that mean that's where they've been living all these years, like Aquaman? No, it just means they can go in the water. Guess what? They can go through solid matter. They can fly into a mountain. We've got the evidence for that. Does that mean that they've always been living in the mountains all these years? No, it just means they can go into a mountain, right? I mean, humans could go into the water. Does that mean the human civilization has actually been living there all these years? In fact, there's more humans living underwater now. No, all of this is a distraction. It's fun. It's intriguing. But the skeptics and others grab onto anything they can to distract us, diffuse it, and stall. I say run over them. Okay? Right? If there is one extraterrestrial from another planet here, then that's an extraterrestrial presence. And if we have one of their craft, that's a non-human extraterrestrial craft. There may be 500,000 species from other dimensions. So what? Are we going to say we really can't? There's no reason to investigate the phenomena because most of the species are coming from another dimension and they're not really extraterrestrial. And the only one that's coming from no, all this is bullshit. Let's shrink it down to simple common sense. All right. In 1947, a crash occurred in Roswell. There had been scores of them. Ryan Wood's new updated version of Magic Eyes Only, I think now has evidence for over 100 crashes. All right. There was a crash vehicle and there were bodies in it. They weren't robots because they stunk up the Roswell hospital. Right. Now, they could have been bio entities. So they were partially machines and partially bio. And so the bio part is what stunk up the hospital, whatever. I think they were pretty much just beings made up of biological stuff that stunk when it died. That's 47. Okay. There have been many other crashes since. All right. And now we have people that have been in their ships. They have been taken up there. They have seen hybrid babies, hybrid entities being formed. Okay. Ships. They have entities have been taken up in ships and been able to look down on the earth. All of this is in the contactee accounts, which are not part of the evidentiary base now. That doesn't mean that I have to ignore it. All right. And so, absent formal disclosure, all the doors are open for anybody to go through any door. And so, if you want to go through the multiverse door, you'll go through there and you'll hang out there whenever. Fine. You want to go through the inner earth door? Fine. You want to go in there, us from the future? Fine.
The religious door. That's the other
religious
one.
door?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
But that is aside from, are there non-humans that were born in the last 80, 90 years living on this planet? Right? I mean, I'm sorry, that weren't born on this planet in the last 100 years and haven't been living on this planet during that period, who have technology unknown to any of our governments and ourselves engaging us. That's what matters. And that's what the truth embargo is about and has always been about. The truth embargo started with embargoing the truth of Roswell, right? Before the idea of even time travel was a thing, really. I mean, Orson Welles had done it. It starts right there and it's still there. The rest is just distraction and confusion. Let's cut through that and get to the fundamental point, right? Is there advanced technology that was not created by human beings in the hands of civilian contractors, the United States government? The answer is yes. Are there bodies of non-humans who made this technology, which doesn't refer to porpoises, dolphins, whales, and elephants, who, the last I checked, are unable to build computers and spacecraft? The answer is yes. That means there's an embargo on that, and that we have to end, not spend. And again, those that want to wander in the wild and crazy universe of possibilities and the quantum world and collapsing waves where things really get weird, that's fine. That's cool. Go there. But don't bring that crap into the disclosure process. I mean, you have the perfectly right to do it, but I'm not going to embrace it, and I'm not going to thank you for it. We need to end the embargo on the fundamental reality that there is a non-human engagement that almost certainly comes from other planets, as they said they have, and we have tech, and we've been working on that tech for 70 years, and God knows what we've learned. That's what matters, not whether there's an actual Aquaman city down below, right? Or the time travel movies we love are true. That's fine. Spend time on that, but don't distract the activist movement with that crap. You're not going to pay attention to it. And I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'll try to be generous. I'll try to be nice. But now we're getting down to the real nitty gritty. Why? Because this brings me to the final point that I was making.
Mm-hmm.
The empire struck back.
Actually, wait. Sorry, Steve. There's something rattling while you're talking. It might be your cup. It's rattling on your speaker. I want to hear your point clear.
No, I think I'm bumping. I know what I'm doing. I'm bumping.
Sorry.
Are you hearing
wanted to
any
hear.
rattling now?
No,
Are
it's
we okay?
perfect now. Yeah, it's
Okay, I
perfect.
was
I just
bumping
wanted
the
to make sure it's
stand.
clear. Yeah.
Yes,
So the
bumping the
last
stand.
point, the final point,
Okay.
sorry, that you were making.
Is this: the Empire struck back when it gutted the bill, and then when that didn't work, and they realized Schumer wasn't going to give up, they essentially put out the Arrow report. No, I'm sorry. When they gutted the Empire struck back when they realized that the bill was going to threaten eminent domain and so forth, and they gutted the bill, and they felt pleased with themselves. And then when they realized they'd been outmaneuvered by Schumer, and that they probably could not stop the disclosure process as it was underway because they couldn't control Schumer, Warner, they threw a Hail Mary desperate pass, and they disgraced themselves. They abused the hell out of Sean Kirkpatrick. They embarrassed the country by putting out another Condon report that's even worse than the Condon report. It's a total lie from beginning to end. And they put that out in the face of 4 to 5 billion internet users, several billion social media users who are sophisticated, have high tech, have read the books, have studied everything, and are in a position to communicate at will and rain hell down upon them until they yield.
Yeah.
In other words, they threw the ultimate Hail Mary with a zero chance of succeeding. That's what they have done. And so now, here is the situation. Now I'm going to get serious and scary.
Welcome.
This Hail Mary pass cannot succeed, but it can bring about the end of civilization.
Mm.
And then nobody will care who threw it or why. No one will care about suing the government over, their false claims or reparations. Nobody will care about much other than, where can I find something to eat? How can I avoid dying of radiation poison?
Yeah.
And why not I just kill myself? Okay. So let me flesh that out for you. So here's the situation. Circa April 2024. Thanks to 77 years of stupid, barbaric, idiotic, childish behavior on the part of nations and governments, thanks to countless mistakes and the wasting of untold trillions, probably in the range of $200 trillion since the end of World War II.
Mm.
The situation we face in 2024 is existential. Finally, really existential. Okay. Way more existential than the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was bad and nearly triggered a nuclear war. The situation right now is totally out of control. And so where we are now is we're the closest to nuclear war we've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
We've got massive instability in 4 or 5 major zones in the world. And we have genocide taking place in a number of other areas that nobody really even pays attention to, because the other stuff is so much more existential than the genocide.
Yeah.
Right? We've got 20-some thousand nuclear weapons. We are advancing the technology, building more sophisticated weapons, nuclear torpedoes, hypersonic weapons, and of course, we're about to move weapons into space.
Mm-hmm.
We have countries, particularly Russia, threatening to use these nukes on a monthly basis. The world is at DEFCON 2. That we were at DEFCON 2 in Europe for the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody else is in DEFCON 3, could go to 2 at any time. DEFCON 1 is nuclear war. The politics of the United States is literally collapsing under the weight of its own stupidity. It's almost impossible to understand it anymore. And so it's created chaos. All right? We have a war in the Ukraine, and of course we have a complete destabilization of the entire Middle East and the Arab world. There's a pretty good chance we're not going to get through this year without a nuclear war. The Doomsday Clock has been recently reset, not reset, but reconfirmed at 90 seconds to midnight. They'd gone to 90, backed off to 100, I think 110, but they put it back at 90, basically saying nuclear war could happen at any time. That's where we are.
Will
Forget
disclosure
about the
stop it?
destruction of what?
Will disclosure stop this?
I'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, global warming, the destruction of the oceans, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's still happening. I get it. It's a problem. It could be. It's fixable.
Yeah.
There's a solution to every problem we have. But forgive me, but I can't get too worked up about global warming, if you know what I mean. Okay, we have a nuclear war. I think the rising sea levels will be the least of our concerns. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what are we going to do? The efforts to de-escalate the nuclear threat failed. The efforts to stop nuclear weapons technology advancement failed. The efforts to reduce the number of weapons failed. The efforts to avoid proxy wars failed. The ability to take care of the now 8 billion people, of which 2 billion are in dire distress and suffering in a world where everybody's got weapons. It's not just the military weapons, everybody's got weapons, right? Failed. Terrorism is on the rise and could go nuclear at any time. Dealing with that failed, right?
Yeah.
Solve the Taiwan problem? No. Solve the Middle Eastern issues? No. Right? Meanwhile, our own politics is collapsing. That's what's going on. And people say, well, how do we get through this? What are the geniuses that turn up on the esteemed news shows have to say about it? God, I love watching those programs, and they're intelligent and they have degrees and they're paid contributors. And I watch them and I'm looking for answers to any of this, and they've got squat. Period. You can find some people out there, really good investigative reporters, that can't get in the mainstream, so they're working on Medium or The Conversation or what's the other one? And they're writing articles that you can kind of find if you look for them. But by and large, the governments and the major media have no interest in that. So if you go find them, you can get a little solace that somebody is pointing it out. But in terms of in a scale large enough to make a difference, certainly in the White House, the Congress, no. So it's over then, right? It's over. Our time is finally going to come to an end. I mean, there will still be civilization afterwards, most of it in the southern hemisphere, but the overall effects as they start to spread, because there will be collateral stuff that will spread even in the southern hemisphere. And I'm not talking about radiation, there'll be some of that. I'm just talking about the collapse of structure. Probably a minimum of half the world's people will die, which the earth will be going, hey, so glad to see that. Could be 60, 70% of the people will die. And they'll die awfully, right? They won't die like the people were at ground zero at Nagasaki and Hiroshima, because they were vaporized like this. But the people that were further out, oh boy, did they die badly. How are we going to avoid this? There's only one way. Now, if somebody else is out there with another option, and I missed it, for God's sake, send me the link. I mean, not some pie in the sky bullshit, some imaginary, I don't know, airy fair. I'm talking about an actual way that we this year can deal with this and stop this from happening and deal with the core issues, and then maybe start fixing things, but mostly just deal with this. If there is somebody that's got an answer, please send me the link, because I've never seen them and I don't think they exist. Now, there are other people talking about what I'm saying. Maybe not as angry as I am. Doesn't matter. But there are other people that think this way and occasionally speak this way. They're out there. You have to dig to find them, though. Me, I'll get in front of any mic and a camera, so I'm easier to find. So let me speak for them. There is only one way out of this mess. And if you have children and grandchildren and actually care about what happens to them, if you actually care what happens to your country, then you need to pay attention to this one way. And that is disclosure of the extraterrestrial presence. not disclosure of the interdimensional presence, which could be there too, but not disclosure of the time traveling presence, which might be there too, because you can have all four, or
Mhm.
not disclosure of the super high tech underwater living presence, which could be there too, but the extraterrestrial presence, which takes in basically all of that. The disclosure of that present by the heads of states of nation is the only chance that we have, right? The only chance we have. If we don't do it, we're screwed. And a lot of people are saying that in various ways, but they're not able to say it this strongly
Yeah.
because that would upset the advertisers. It would upset some editors. It would upset some funders. And that's why you have not seen anybody come on any major news network, any cable news network, and say what I'm saying. And because they know that's exactly what I'm going to say, they ain't calling anymore. All right. They're not calling. But I got the podcast world and I got them and I'll do the podcast. Rogan's a podcast. He could invite me, but that's not happening. And there are a few others that I'd love to be on. And I respect them.
Never too late. He might ask you one day. Never too late. He'll.
I'm not throwing shade at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any entity, any broadcast entity, any newspaper, any show, any podcast has the right to invite on whoever they want and not bring on whoever they want. Let's be clear
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And so they're not violating some higher law. I'm simply pointing out that I haven't been asked. And I'm speculating it's because I go somewhere that others just don't want to go. And where I'm going is not some elaborate, bizarre conspiracy theory. It's simple common sense that's being addressed by some pretty high level people. They just won't go this far. Let me give you an example. Some years ago, and I'm pretty sure it was a former Secretary of Defense. I got to get the name. I just haven't had time. I'm doing like something like 27 podcasts a month. Plus, I'm traveling back and
Awesome.
forth between here and LA because of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is moving forward. But this Secretary of Defense published an op-ed, I believe, in the New York Times or the Washington Post. I'm going to get it. I'm going to republish it. I promise. And here is what this former Secretary of Defense put out there. No one else had done it, and no one has done it since. He said the truth because I think he was near the end of his life and felt, what the hell?
Hmm.
And here is what he said. He said, the real threat that you need to be thinking about is not launch nuclear weapons from another country, which the moment it happens achieves an immediate response from the other side, which means that while you're screwed, the other side is also screwed.
Hmm.
The real threat is from electromagnetic pulse nuclear weapons, EMPs. Now, why did he say that? What's going on here? Right? Here is why. Are there nukes in space? Well, I'm sure the Washington Post would say absolutely not. The New York Times would say absolutely not. The DoD would say absolutely not. They don't even know. And if they knew, they wouldn't tell you because you couldn't handle that truth, right? Now, what do you mean? How could there be nukes in space? Right? Well, it's simple. When any nation fires or launches a rocket, like North Korea, we got some great sensors. We got some fine quality sensors up there, down here, everywhere. Within seconds, 20, 30, 40 seconds, we've already calculated the trajectory of that launch.
Hmm.
And you damn well know why we do that. I don't think anybody needs to be told why we do that. And there's one of two possibilities. It's either suborbital or orbital. Now, if it's suborbital, we immediately calculate where it's going to land. And if it's fired from North Korea and it looks like it's going to land in Tokyo, I assume there will be a dramatic response to that instantly.
Yeah.
Boom, bada bing. Okay. And so every effort will be made to ensure that it never makes it to Tokyo. If it's going to fly off into the Pacific, we note that, and then we talk about it later and complain and bitch about the fact that North Korea is doing that again. North Korea is not the only country that launches satellites into space. But if it's orbital, what do we do? Well, they're trying to launch a satellite, shoot that puppy down. No, you don't do that. That's why I forget how many actual satellites there are now. 30,000? I forget. It's a big number. The total number of actual pieces of space junk, I think, is approaching several million, but whatever. So they launch it. It gets launched. Now, what if that satellite has a nuclear weapon in it, heavily shielded? I think it would be difficult in general to be able to detect a nuclear weapon in space based upon leaking radiation, but put some shield around it. I'm saying there's no way we know if that's got a nuclear weapon in it. And so there could be nuclear weapons orbiting right now, and we don't know it.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that. Nobody talks about that. Right, basically. I mean, they occasionally allude, but over, we got to stop. We have to have a weapons in space treaty banning it. That's been attempted now for 50 years. Nowhere, gone nowhere. Okay, and so you got nukes in space.
Yeah.
Let's say there are EMPs. That's the one you want. That's what you put up there. EMPs. Okay, and so what this former Secretary of Defense was saying is at any time, if an EMP nuke in a satellite drops on down, we're not going to be able to do anything about it in time. It goes off over the country. If it's a good size one, it takes out most of the electrical grid and other grid. I mean, it takes out all the damn grids. If they got electrons moving in them, it takes them down. And what happens next? Here's what he said. Within 1 year, half of the American people will be dead.
Yeah.
Now, that's one hell of an op-ed. He's raising the issue of EMPs and the implications of what happens. Half the American people dying would be good for Social Security. I mean, Social Security could be gold after that. Well, assuming that we can continue to do business and make money.
Yeah.
But bad for the country. Nobody has written that since. Nobody even talks about it since. Okay, EMP. All right. And so the point that I'm making here is that there are people that know. And on the rare occasion they say something, but you don't hear from them again. And this is another reason why we're in the place we're in. And so I'm saying, look, it may not be a nuclear weapon strike. It may not be nuclear weapons that destroy us. It just may be an EMP, which would be a hell of a lot easier. And unless we can figure out exactly whose satellite that is, we don't know who to destroy. I mean, it won't take out our nuclear submarine. So whoever launched that EMP, we're going to destroy them. Except who? You got to know. I mean, we're tracking all these things. And admittedly, if we track the original launch, then technically we've been following it all these years or whatever the hell. I mean, that came from now maybe not. I don't know, but it's a mess. It's ridiculous. And that's exactly the reality that we live in.
Yeah.
And so it's time for somebody to put these two together. The fact that we are right at the edge of the nuclear war we've been dying to have since Oppenheimer said, "Behold, I am Shiva." Shiva? Behold.
Destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
Right? We've been dying to have it.
Yeah.
So that is established. Everybody at one level or another knows, my God, that's probably what's about to happen, some more than others, but most people still have to live their lives. That's why you have activists who don't have lives. And then the other component, is there a connection between this existential situation and the extraterrestrial presence? And the answer is yes. And people say, a lot of people that, again, are not studying the issue thoroughly, don't know that much, are going, there is. What's the connection? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you got? What do you got? Tell me.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I got. We have witnesses ready to testify before Mark Warner's committee tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'd have more, except the truth embargo is outliving them and they're dying off, but there's still a number of them still alive who are prepared to sit in front of that committee under oath and explain how they were on a ICBM flight when a craft came down, hovered over the site, scaring the hell out of the security people who were running this way and that way. Called down to the officers down below. We've got a craft overhead. What do we do? What are they going to say? Keep us informed. And then the nuclear missiles of that flight were turning off one by one, which cannot happen. Not once, not twice. We don't know how many times, because after a while, the Air Force figured out, my God, this is going to become a problem. And so they started locking down the people at those sites. And so at some point, any future events like that, they were locking down those security people and those officers and basically saying, if you start yapping about this like Bob Salas, we're going to kill you, your family, your pets, everybody you know, scorch earth. That's it.
Yeah.
And so they could have continued to happen, but the Air Force was finally on top of it. But it gets better, because we have witnesses to the events happening in Russia and the Soviet Union. They were turning the missiles off there as well. Now, the Soviet Union probably had a little more ability to lock down any of their site crews. So the fact that we have any is amazing. How many times they were shut down in the Soviet Union, we don't know, because anybody that talks about that over there ends up either in Siberia or under Siberia. All right. And so, and then in addition to that, we have evidence to them turning them on twice, sending them into launch mode twice, where they're going to launch. And the guys with the keys can't do anything. How about that? But it gets better, because contactees who have given us hundreds of thousands of reports over the years of their personal experience to researchers without any expectation of fame or compensation, not just the ones that have been written up in the books, been researched and scrutinized, so that in a sense their stories are having even more substance, but whatever, they're all pretty much true. They have repeatedly been talking about the fact that the ETs are warning them at some point during their experience about the fact that we're destroying the planet and we're heading towards Armageddon. I think in some case they even refer to the nukes.
Yeah.
But it gets better than that, because, and this is some of the coolest stuff, and I say this with both humility and emotion. ETs of some form or another, I mean, I'm not saying it's all the same group, I'm just saying ETs have been landing their craft on many occasions. It could be easily a dozen or more, next to schoolyards.
Mm. Like
Okay.
the aerials,
Schoolyards.
yeah.
Okay. And guess what? When you land a craft like that next to a schoolyard full of school kids, you know what school kids do? Because they haven't been scared to death by our movies or indoctrinated by the government, they rush over to see what's going on. Like in Westfall in Australia, or Rua in Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwe case was of course made legend by John Mack, and then filmed and put into documentary by Randy Nickerson, though it took many years. Westfall was also studied, and most of the others were not studied to that degree, but there's evidence they took place. And what happens when these kids go over, where the ETs are standing outside the craft? They're given telepathic messages, images of their mind in their heads about future destruction. It scares them. It stays with them to the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And the implication is nuclear destruction. One can interpret it as environmental destruction, right? Maybe it's hard to tell the difference. It's not clear if they spelled it out, but they showed that the future is not looking good. But when you combine those messages with the turning down of our nukes, you don't have to be a genius to figure out what the message is. And so there is a clear picture that a great deal of the agenda involving the ET presence involves our nukes. And if that is the case, then that just helps to ensure the statement I'm about to make is true. There is a connection between disclosure, open contact, and finally dealing with these nukes. Apparently, the ETs have a stake in this, which I can talk about. And for that reason, I again make the case. The only way we survive this century is to end this goddamn truth embargo, to
Mhm.
end this lie, not only in the US, but worldwide, so that whatever happens after that, and there will be a lot of cool things happening after that, I can assure you. I mean, disclosure, information coming out, new tech, excitement, whatever. But whatever awful thing happens after that, and believe me, just because we learn that there's extraterrestrial present here doesn't mean that there aren't lots of countries out there that would just love to do some awful things.
Mm.
North Korea could go ahead and nuke Tokyo. The
Ugh.
Chinese could invade Taiwan to get those chip manufacturing plants back and kill, I don't know, 1 million Taiwanese. There could be a massive explosion of war in the Middle East, including nuclear terrorism, where several new Middle Eastern cities are suddenly vaporized. Right? I could go on. Those things could still happen, and that would be bad.
So we need
But,
disclosure now.
but
We need it now.
they would happen in the post-disclosure world,
Mm.
not the pre-disclosure world. And so when one of those awful things happens, the nations and the citizens of those nations will decide how to deal with it, knowing that they are not alone in this universe, that there is a galaxy out there that we might be able to explore. We probably would eventually have and star to star travel. We already have visitors here now. The realm of possibilities for the human race has been profoundly expanded. And so, as we deal with this very unfortunate development, we're going to factor that in and maybe take a more reasonable, moderate course of action. And let me end with this. If anybody thinks that the the nations of this planet and the heads of state or ruling parties of these nations on this planet have achieved a place where they know how to act and react to extremely negative and destructive events in a mature, responsible way, are literally in a coma. They're living underground. They have no Wi Fi, no television. They're deaf, dumb, and blind. They're moles living underground in a coma. Because in the last 2 years alone, you have seen extraordinary examples of nations reacting to bad events in a way that could not be worse. You are seeing nations going out of their way to ensure that this whole thing is going to blow to hell. They simply can't stop it. They don't know better. How many more times has something awful going to happen and the nation's response to that results in the untold slaughter of people? How often does this happen when we realize we don't know how to deal with this shit? And then ask yourself, how can we change that? And then ask yourself, other than ending the truth embargo and learning we're not alone in this galaxy is the only option we have, unless you've got another option. And if you've got another option, for God's sakes, go on CNN and tell us. If
Yeah.
you're a former Secretary of State or one of those contributors or one of those genius scientists, right? And you actually know a way we can do this, go on one of these shows and tell us, because you're not doing that. Disclosure is the only way out of this mess. And that's why I care about what I do. And that's why I get so mad when all this bullshit and obfuscation and nonsense comes up, or when this really deliberate, very high powered effort to stop it, though utterly stupid, like this Arrow report
Yeah.
takes place, because it's not simply stupid and embarrassing and disgraceful, it's existential. So if I'm Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, and I don't want to be partially responsible for bringing about the end of human civilization in any consequential way, and I have a reasonable idea about the circumstances I just described, if I were Dr. Kirkpatrick, I would come forward tomorrow and say, look, I have been used. This is nonsense. That report
Yeah.
is bogus. I can't live with this. Let me tell you what's going on. And that is true for Lloyd Austin. It is true for anybody that is in the government right now, but particularly in high power. In other words, not everybody can do that. I get it. But Lloyd Austin can. And there are a few others that could. Certainly the members of the Intel Committee. And I say this with great deference. Believe me. You got 17 members of the Intel Committee of the Senate. And now you have Chuck Schumer. And there's some others. But let's just focus on those 18. If I am one of those 18 people, in spite of the political chaos underway, the concerns about their party winning or not winning an election, or winning the House or winning the Senate, despite of the terrible, awful things happening in the Middle East, which pose great political issues for us, in spite of the saber rattling in the Ukraine war, the UK and Russia war, which we have to deal with, in spite of all of that, if you don't want to be responsible for ultimately not avoiding the nuclear war that's heading for us like a freight train, you've got to put all of those other things aside and finish the job that you started. Marco Rubio, Senator Gillibrand, Senator Warren, Senator Round, Senator Schumer. Finish the job you started. Get that hearing in the Intel Committee immediately. Get those witnesses in front of you. Get that testimony. Allow the president to disclose and end the truth embargo. And then if we blow the world sky high after that, that is not going to be on your resume. You will have done all that you can do. If your idea is give me time, we'll settle them, we'll bring peace to the Middle East, we'll solve the Taiwan problem, we'll end the war in the Ukraine, we'll deal with global warming, we'll stop the genocides and everything else, we'll get all that together, and then there won't be any nuclear war. Yeah. If you've got another 50 to 100 years to do that, but you don't.
You don't, yeah.
In fact, the one thing that we can say about the 21st century and most of the second half of the 20th century is we can't fix anything. All we do is make things worse. So there you go. That's my message to the Senate Intel Committee, to Chuck Schumer, is my message to Lloyd Austin and to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. And I say this without malice. I say this with respect. I think they're all good people.
Yeah.
I think they're smart, they're intelligent and accomplished. They earn the jobs they have, but that's the situation they're in. And they will step up to it, or all of us are going to pay the price.
Well, Steve, I think that's awesome. I think that's a good place to end it. I want to know what do you have coming up besides, like, what's next for you? And thank you for that whole recap and everything you said today. It's rad. I'm going to have links, everyone, in the episode notes to Steve, to the Paradigm Research Group, to Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, and I believe Contact in the Desert. Is that what you have coming up?
Well, let me talk. And by the way, send me a link to the show as soon as possible.
Yeah.
If you do have to do edits, do those first. And send me
I'm going to do editing and then I'll throw it up.
Yeah. Look, on a lighter note.
Yeah.
Look, first of all, If you go to newparadigminstitute.org, the think tank that Danny Sheehan has finally launched and has already raised a lot of money, but needs to raise tens of millions more and will.
Yeah.
There is a page there where you can contact your two senators and congressperson, contact them and let them know we want those hearings in the Senate Intel Committee. Secondly, if you go to a project that I have launched, which is linked on my top of my website, shiftstorm.org.
Mm-hmm.
There you can find, if you're a member of Twitter, you and 1.5 billion people, I don't care where you are, doesn't matter. You can easily tag messages to the three key people that I'm focusing on, that Schumer, Warner, and Rubio.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what you do is you go at Senator Rubio, at Senator Schumer, whatever their handle is. We really want you to have those hearings. We need those hearings right away. We want disclosure of the ET presence, and send it to all three, then rewrite it a little bit and resend it again. Send as many as you can. Just don't keep saying the same thing. And what happens is those tag messages go in their notification box of their account. They all have Twitter accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Do they monitor those accounts? No, they don't. They have staff that monitors those accounts. All right. And as the staff sees the notification box filling up with all these tagged tweets about ending the truth embargo, they're going to call their boss and say, Senator, you should probably check the notifications box. In which case, the senator will do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. You can also, and we give you the link to their email form, and you can send them emails to the same effect. However, the way this works now is that unless you have an address in that box when you send it in the state where they represent, Florida, Virginia, or New York, it doesn't go through. So I'm just saying, it got to be a New York, Florida, Virginia address in there, and then the email goes through. Obviously, if you're in those states, no problem. And those emails will start accumulating in the email account. And the staffer will be checking that and then calling up the senator and saying, Senator, we're getting a whole bunch of emails about the fact that we need to have these hearings in the Senate. And they will see that, and there you go. That's all set up for you. Shiftstorm.org, newparadigminstitute.org. Now, the next major conference is the Contact in the Desert. It's the 10th anniversary. It's going to be big.
Big, yeah.
Last year was a recovery from the COVID. It was nice. This is going to be bigger. Between 2,000 and 3,000 people, 70 speakers, 14 panels, Indian Wells, fantastic resort. All right. March 30 to June 3, which includes the intensives. All right. Go to the website, contactinthedesert.org. I do have a few events that I'll be involved in. No problem.
May 30th. You said March, May 30th, right? May 30th.
Thank you, my man. May 30th to June 3.
I'll have the link up too. I'll have the link up.
Yeah. And we have a special rate on the hotels, but you have to order it through the website. All the hotel rooms are booked, so you got to get them through the website. You get a special rate. Come be there. Celebrate. This will be a major event, and it could be celebrating some extraordinary things. Contactinthedesert.com. Now, there's also a major conference in MUFON this year in September in Dallas, Fort Worth. MUFON is coming on strong. It's got a full lobbying firm working for it. It's got a full media operation. September. You've got the Roswell Festival in July. Could be very big this year. Could be wonderful. Roswell Festival. On my website, under resources, I have now updated the conference section, and all the upcoming conferences are listed there under resources at paradigmresearchgroup.org. So there is that. All right. Also, Paradigm Research Group is now a now registered nonprofit with Washington, D.C., soon to be a nonprofit with the IRS, 501c3. I am going to finally start requesting tax-deductible donations so that PRG can not only increase its pre-disclosure activity, but most importantly, be ready for the post-disclosure world. I'm going to convert it to a think tank that does lobbying and activism on the side. I can also be an activist as an individual, right? Keep them separate. But it's time to go pro, and so that is the case for Paradigm Research Group. And then the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is also a nonprofit 501c3. Dan Harari and I founded it in November, but with nothing. And now it has 220 members, 20 board members, about half of which are film industry, TV industry, what we call Hollywood members, and half are UAP, ET, researchers, activists, journalists. We call them the UAP members. And we are helping to bring them together to bridge the truth embargo that has kept them apart so that they can make quality content,
Awesome.
particularly for
Great.
the post-disclosure world, that's correct. Got great production values,
Yeah.
but they also talking to the people that know what the hell's going on so that the content is good. Everybody wins. Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. If you want to be a member, you need to be referred in by other members and
Okay.
reviewed by the executive committee. I am a member. So is Dan Harari. Our contact information is up there. Go to the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance and see what we've done.
Great.
We think it could make a huge difference, particularly in the post-disclosure world. And we definitely need donations. One big funder, and we are set to do a lot of cool things. And so that's what's coming up. That's my
Awesome.
latest promo.
Yeah, and I'll
Thank you.
again, I'll have all those links so everyone in the episode notes, everyone can check all that out. Check what you got going
I
on.
like to have fun. I like to make jokes. I can be pretty funny, and I will continue to be humorous. But I think you can tell now it's game time.
It's game time. Yeah.
I
Bring it.
have only so many years left, but it's not about that. It's about this.
Yeah.
It's time to step up. No more fooling around.
Cheers to
If
that.
you're
Man.
a baby boomer like me. I was born in 1946. I was conceived just 6 months after the bombs on Hiroshima. If you're a baby boomer, it was the baby boomer generation that
Yeah.
basically managed the truth embargo right up to the present day. And the greatest generation kind of launched it, but we're the ones that managed it, developed, and expanded it. And so I think people of my generation, particularly, and not to mention people of my generation have accumulated a lot of wealth during their lifetime. Good on you. We have a particular responsibility to end this truth embargo. We ran it. We maintained it. We must end it. The Gen Zs don't understand it. The millennials don't have that much information, and they're the ones that are going to suffer the consequences. And so if you're a Gen Z, a baby boomer, help another baby boomer, and that includes Danny Sheehan, by the way. We're like 2 months apart. Help us end this truth embargo so that the rest of the fine people on this planet will live in a post-disclosure world with a better chance of actually working out.
Well, cheers to that,
man.
Steve. Yeah, no, I
Alrighty.
appreciate you. Thank you so much. And yeah, just thanks, man. Thanks for all of that. Thanks, Steve.
Till next time. Bye.
All right. Bye.